Let's talk about the people on Love After Lockup and why they continue to pursue inmates. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I've worked with perpetrators of abuse and victims of abuse for many years, as well as I worked in the correctional system for several years. Excuse me. And I want to talk, someone had asked me a little while ago to talk about, the people on Love After Lockup and sort of do an analysis of the women and men who go after inmates and spend all this money and spend all this time sort of pursuing those relationships only to only get dumped and so on and so forth. In most of the cases, not all of them, but most of the case. So I think, one thing that I know personally and I have had experience with it, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody ever talk about, people, reality television goes after people with certain personality types. And often, they're going to go after, people that are going to attract viewers to the show. And most of the time they have like big personalities or they draw attention for a various number of reasons, right? And it's a tried and true formula that works. So if you watch Flavor of Love, they had New York. If you watch Being Bobby Brown, that Whitney Houston had a huge personality. And there's usually some sort of person like that draws in. And in the same, I would say the same formula also applies to Love After Lockup. And maybe their personalities aren't necessarily big, but they're going to draw in viewerships by making these sort of radical decisions. One of the things that I know firsthand as a mental health professional is, and what I've seen as a mental health professional, a lot of these people on reality TV, there's some dispute on whether or not reality TV is scripted. It may be scripted, but the personalities are not. And so a lot of these people with big personalities, they often come and crash down just as big as their personality is. So if their personality is up here, when they come down, when they have a depressive state, they're going to be way down here. And so a lot of these folks that you guys see on television, it's also not uncommon for these, people to also have severe mental health issues. In fact, a lot of them do. I do think reality TV capitalizes off of severe mental health or people with severe mental health issues. A lot of them, I've seen in Psych Emergency and so on and so forth, being in the California area and working with, some of the wealthiest people. You do see a lot of those personalities, unfortunately, that get into some serious troubles, not only psychiatric wise, but also legal wise. And so, unfortunately, these are vulnerable people that are also likely to make these kind of decisions, right? And supporting people from jail, right? And you've even seen this on like Housewives and stuff like that, where, these people from those shows, while we're talking about Love After Lockup, while they're on those shows, they still will go and get an inmate or a felon. But there's also something else. There's also another phenomenon that happens, and I like to call it the bird with a broken wing theory. A person that takes care of a bird with a broken wing knows that, once a wing is damaged, that bird's not going to go anywhere, right? And I think the same logic applies for people that, go after these inmates in prison. Like, they're locked up, they're not going anywhere. So if I'm feeling really insecure and like I worry all the time about people cheating, or I've experienced people cheating on me, people leaving me, or people using me. If you have a person that's in a cage that can't go anywhere, then it's like, oh, yes, I feel much more secure with that because they can't go anywhere. At least that's what the thinking is. I think the logic is behind a lot of these people. And so, these people are, I feel like I think there's a twofold process. And I can't say that I've never treated any of these people on Love After Lockup. So I'm giving out general tips. So I can't say that for sure this person has that, this person has that, for legal reasons, of course. But just from what I know from, working with people on television, I do know that, these big personalities have that. And people also struggle with like abandonment and rejection from deep wounds, also deep rooted insecurity. And so having someone that's locked up is what they feel to be perfect. And so they're willing to shower them with gifts, shower them with money, and make all of these decisions, right? Because they feel like, oh, if I do this and this and this, basically if I build a man or build a woman, they're not going to go anywhere. There's no real threat of them leaving me until there is, which is what we see on Love After Lockup. Things immediately start to go south. And these same people that struggle with these insecurities, they then become controlling, right? They want to pull rank on all of the things that they've given and that they poured into this relationship, and they expect that loyalty. And I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong or right. I'm just saying if you've got someone that's been locked up for 20 plus years, what do you think they're going to do when they get out into the free world? Plus, everyone that goes to prison is not rehabilitated. A lot of people are still coming out with a lot of the same manipulative behaviors, still have that desire to live the fast life, and get caught up into stuff. Again, it's not always, but a lot of times it does happen. And so these people aren't really expecting that, right? But they're chasing love. They're pouring into a partner that's unavailable. And that's usually a pattern that they most likely have had. If I, again, I don't know them, but if I had to guess, I would say that that's pretty much a cemented pattern that they probably have had long before dealing with that person that they dealt with on Love After Lockup, where they've sort of been chasing romance and they feel like they finally got it when that person is in a cage. But boy, the tables do turn on them fast. And again, they will stay in that relationship to their own detriment. Unfortunately, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I don't really watch the show. I remember watching it when it first came out, like a little bit, but I can't say that I was ever a hardcore watcher. But from what I've seen single mothers fall especially prey to this, where, they have some man that's been locked up, and they have their children ready to call them daddy, or already calling them daddy, and their children don't even know this man. And that's always been fascinating to me. But again, I do think it's like that, that sort of that desire to have a family, right? That, people are willing to just sort of latch on to that and create that in their mind, regardless of whether or not that person's character actually supports the fact of whether or not they're able to be a good father, whether they're predatory. They really don't even know someone. Because I personally think that when someone's locked up in jail, you do not know that person when they are locked up in jail. And I've seen it. I personally have witnessed it firsthand, like different personalities when, they're locked up in prison and they're in front of me every day. They're a totally different way than they are when they go and visit their family and visiting, right? And so you don't know that person. I don't care who they are to you. They are typically a completely different person when they're on the inside. And a lot of it is they have to be, but most of it too is also that they choose to be. This is who they are when they're in their element. But yeah, hopefully that explains some of my breakdown about Love After Lockup, and why they continuously go after people in jail. Because what you also see, unfortunately, is when it doesn't work out with the first person, what do? They go back and they're hunting again on the jail hotline. But this is often very common with people who have severe mental health or severe substance abuse issues as well. Because we've seen it not only with Love After Lockup and The Housewives, but also The Mob Wives and various other shows too. And again, those people with those big personalities on reality television may also find themselves locked up a time or two as well.